Intelligence has always been considered humanity's greatest gift, the path to success, fame, and happiness. But what if intelligence is not just a beacon of light, but also an inescapable curse? What if intelligence is not the key to happiness, but the source of discontent, loneliness, and despair? The smarter one is, the more clearly they see the true nature of the world, but that very clarity often reveals its inherent meaninglessness. Intelligent individuals may decipher the laws of the universe, yet they are also more prone to feelings of alienation and doubt. Looking back at history, how many geniuses truly lived fulfilling lives? Nikola Tesla died in poverty. Van Gogh took his own life in despair, and Nietzsche spent his final years in madness. Could there be a connection between intelligence and suffering? A sharp mind is not just a tool for achieving success. It can also become a burden that crushes its possessor. Intelligence does not only bring understanding, it amplifies pain. Have you ever felt different, unable to engage in mundane conversations? Have you ever found yourself trapped within your own mind, overthinking to the point where life seems to lose its meaning? If you've ever experienced this, you may have glimpsed the dark side of intelligence. In this journey, we will explore the essence of intelligence, uncover why greater knowledge often leads to greater suffering, and ask whether there is a way to break free from this cycle. If there is one philosopher who understood the agony of the intelligent more than anyone else, it is Arthur Schopenhauer. While the world tirelessly praises progress and exalts intelligence as a means of liberating humanity from suffering, Schopenhauer painted a completely different picture. He believed that intelligence was not a gift, but a burden. The smarter one is, the more deeply they perceive the tragedy of life, the more they peer into the essence of the world, the more they recognize its meaninglessness. This is not some far-fetched theory, but a truth Schopenhauer himself experienced throughout his life. Born in 1788, Schopenhauer grew up in a world of chaos. His father was a wealthy merchant plagued by constant anxiety, while his mother was a famous writer, cold and distant. From an early age, he possessed a vision far beyond that of his peers. He found no joy in trivial games, no excitement in the fanciful stories that entertained those around him. Instead, he spent his time contemplating the nature of life and the meaning of existence. But this superior intellect only led to isolation. Schopenhauer quickly realized he could not fit in with ordinary people. He viewed most of them as mediocre, shallow, consumed by trivial desires and empty illusions. Unlike his contemporaries who sought to interpret life through a lens of optimism and progress, Schopenhauer chose a different path. He viewed the world not through the framework of development, but through its most primal essence, suffering. He believed that all living beings were driven by an invisible force, a relentless drive that dictated every action, every desire, and every torment of human existence. He called it the will. According to Schopenhauer, the will was the root of all suffering. It was a blind force that compelled people to chase endless desires, never allowing them to attain true satisfaction. A person craves wealth, but upon acquiring it, they only want more. A person pursues fame, but the moment they grasp it, they feel empty. No one can escape this cycle. Humans do not control their own will. They are ruled by it, like puppets being pulled by an unseen force. But the most terrifying part is that intelligent people perceive this futility more clearly than anyone else. While the average person can easily lose themselves in fleeting pleasures, distracting themselves with fragile hopes, those with sharp intellects see through it all. They recognize that everything humans pursue, money, fame, power, is nothing more than a temporary illusion. They understand that whatever is gained will eventually fade, that nothing is permanent. And when this realization becomes too clear, it leads to a state of existential crisis. This is why so many geniuses throughout history have fallen into isolation, depression, and even madness. They see a truth that the majority do not. Life has no inherent meaning. And not everyone is strong enough to accept that truth. For those who are highly intelligent, there are only two choices: either pretend they don't know, or accept it and be consumed by the abyss of despair. Schopenhauer was not the only one to hold this view. After him, existentialist philosophers like Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and Sartre followed a similar line of thought. They all recognized that intelligence is not the path to happiness. On the contrary, it can lead to a sense of disorientation, a detachment from life, and an inability to enjoy the simple pleasures that others take for granted. But if intelligence leads to suffering, does that mean we should reject it? Should we stop thinking? Stop questioning? Stop seeking the truth? We often believe that knowing more means having more control, making fewer mistakes, and living a happier life. But in reality, the more we understand, the more we are confronted with the paradoxes of existence, questions without answers, truths that cannot be changed. This is the greatest paradox of intelligence. It expands our awareness, yet it also magnifies our suffering. The deeper we see into the nature of life, the more powerless we feel in the face of its meaninglessness. Intelligence is not a straight path leading to absolute truth. It is more like a light illuminating the darkness. But the brighter the light, the deeper the shadows. Highly intelligent individuals do not just recognize the meaninglessness of the world, they also see the futility of trying to change it. They realize that happiness is nothing more than a fleeting moment, while suffering is the default state of human existence. When we lack what we desire, we suffer because we don't have it. When we obtain it, we suffer from the fear of losing it. And in the end, when we lose it, we suffer from regret. This is the endless cycle of the will to live that Schopenhauer spoke of. Those who are less intelligent can enjoy moments of joy more easily because they don't question them too deeply. They do not analyze the meaning of happiness, nor are they haunted by the impermanence of life. But intelligent people cannot do this. They cannot stop thinking, cannot pretend not to know. And so, they often find themselves trapped in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, a feeling that no matter what they do, they will never truly feel fulfilled. Look at those who have reached the pinnacle of intelligence. Brilliant scientists, great philosophers, artistic geniuses. How many of them were truly happy? Albert Einstein once admitted that he felt lonely in his own world because no one could understand him. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the greatest minds in modern philosophy, spent his final years in isolation and madness. Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the most brilliant philosophers of the 20th century, lived much of his life in profound dissatisfaction and loneliness. Why? Because they saw what others could not. Because they realized that everything humans strive for ultimately holds no real value. Because they understood that there is no objective meaning to our existence. And once you realize this, you can never go back. You cannot pretend you don't know. You cannot live like everyone else anymore. But what is the paradox? It is intelligence that grants them these insights, yet it is also intelligence that prevents them from finding peace. If you do not understand the meaninglessness of life, you can enjoy it. But if you come to see that everything you do is merely part of an endless, unwinnable game, how would you feel? Would you keep playing, or would you stop and start questioning everything? And if you stop, where would you go? Schopenhauer called this the suffering of awareness. The sharper the mind, the more easily it gets trapped in questions with no answers. The more intelligent a person is, the more isolated they become, unable to share their perception with those who do not think at the same level. They feel like outsiders in this world, seeing things no one else sees, yet unable to change them. But this is only part of the problem. One of the greatest paradoxes of intelligence is that it not only makes us aware of life's meaninglessness, but also leaves us powerless in the face of that realization. An intelligent person can see through the mechanisms of the world, but that does not mean they can change them. They may understand that humanity is doomed to repeat the same mistakes, yet they cannot prevent it. They may foresee inevitable outcomes, yet they cannot stop themselves from arriving at them. It's like watching your loved ones make mistakes, knowing exactly where they will lead, yet being unable to change their course. And this is one of the greatest tragedies of intelligence. But is there a way out? Is there a way to retain intelligence without being consumed by its suffering? There is a path, but it is not the one most people would expect. Loneliness. The inevitable consequence of intelligence. Loneliness is not just the state of being physically alone. It is the feeling of disconnection, even when surrounded by others. For highly intelligent people, loneliness is not just the absence of someone to talk to. It is the inability to find someone who thinks on the same wavelength, someone who can truly understand the depth of their thoughts. It is a unique kind of loneliness, a loneliness that does not stem from the external world, but from their own perception of it. Intelligence and loneliness always go hand in hand. The smarter a person is, the more they tend to think independently, asking questions that no one around them seems to care about. They cannot accept superficial answers or simple explanations, but this also means they struggle to engage in ordinary conversations. Topics that most people find exciting often feel meaningless to them. They cannot talk to others without feeling bored, but they also cannot be alone without feeling empty. Have you ever felt this way? Intelligence, skepticism, and disconnection. Highly intelligent people often face a particular challenge. They can see through human nature, and that variability makes it harder for them to connect with others. While most people easily trust one another, easily get swept up in grand narratives, the intelligent see what lies beneath the surface. They see the insincerity behind compliments. They see the real motives behind actions. They see the masks people wear to hide their true nature. And when you see too much, you stop believing so easily. You become skeptical. You become cautious. You keep your distance. A highly intelligent person tends to seek truth, but truth is not always comforting. When you realize that the values society chases are just illusions, that the happiness people crave is merely a fleeting state, how can you engage in casual conversations like everyone else? How can you care about trivial things when your mind is consumed by bigger questions? This difference often leads intelligent people to isolation, not because they want to, but because they can't help it. When they try to fit in, they have to pretend to care about things they don't actually care about. They have to hide their true thoughts. They have to play a role just to avoid being seen as too different. But this act of pretending only exhausts them further, pushing them even farther away from their true selves. They can never fully be themselves around others, and yet they cannot bear the falseness of pretending to be someone they're not. Emily Dickinson, one of the most renowned poets in history, spent almost her entire life confined to her room, avoiding human interaction. Isaac Newton, one of the greatest minds in science, never formed a close relationship with anyone and died in isolation. They couldn't find anyone who truly resonated with them, so they chose solitude. Even when intelligent people manage to find others who are equally intelligent, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll feel any less lonely. Because intelligence is not just about knowledge, it's about emotion too. Two people can have the same high IQ, but if they don't share the same way of perceiving life, they will still feel like strangers to each other. Intelligence is not something that can be easily shared, because it's not just about thoughts, it's about deeply personal feelings toward the world. And those feelings are unique to each individual. So, is there a way for intelligent people to escape their own loneliness? You don't have to force yourself to fit in by pretending to be like everyone else. A person doesn't need a large circle of friends to overcome loneliness. The only way to escape loneliness is to learn to accept it, to make it a part of life rather than constantly resisting it. An average person can live a simple life, enjoy small pleasures, and feel content with that. But a highly intelligent person cannot. They find everything too trivial, too shallow, too predictable. They constantly crave something deeper, something that can give them a true sense of fulfillment. Yet ironically, it is their very intelligence that prevents them from attaining it, because they understand that nothing in this world is ever enough. So what is the paradox here? It is intelligence that allows them to see the meaninglessness of everything. Yet intelligence offers them no way out. They cannot stop thinking, cannot stop questioning, cannot go back to how things were before. And that is the tragedy of intelligence. It not only allows people to understand more, but it also amplifies every emotion, especially the negative ones. Highly intelligent people don't just think more, they feel more deeply. They don't just see the world more clearly, they also perceive the suffering that others can easily ignore. And so, they don't just live with intelligence, they bear its consequences: anxiety, depression, and despair. Imagine an average person, when they encounter a problem, they might think about it for a short while and then move on to something else. But an intelligent person isn't like that. They analyze everything too deeply. They see possibilities that others never consider. They imagine the worst-case scenarios that could unfold. They can't simply stop thinking because their mind isn't wired that way. And when they overthink, they find themselves in a constant state of stress. They worry about things that others don't even notice. They see risks where others see nothing at all. They can't stop themselves from thinking about what could go wrong, even when they know it only exhausts them. Anxiety is the default state of an intelligent mind. When you can predict more outcomes, you have more to worry about. When you understand the world better, you see more reasons to be afraid. An average person can easily believe that everything will be fine, but an intelligent person knows there's no guarantee of that. They know that humans don't have as much control over life as they like to believe. They know that there's always more to lose than there is to hold on to. And so their mind never truly rests. But anxiety is only part of the problem. Depression is what truly eats away at highly intelligent people. When an intelligent person begins to realize that all human efforts are temporary, that everything will eventually be lost, that nothing is truly permanent, they fall into a void of emptiness. Highly intelligent people often fall into a state of overthinking, constantly analyzing everything to the point of exhaustion. They don't just think about a problem, they think about their own thoughts. They question why they feel the way they do. They dissect their emotions. They try to figure out why they can't simply enjoy life like everyone else. But the more they search for answers, the deeper they fall into an endless loop. They feel as if they're sinking into a bottomless void, where every thought leads to another thought, where every question only gives rise to more questions. And when they find no way out, they begin to feel hopeless. Hopelessness is the natural state of a mind that sees reality too clearly. Life isn't necessarily a journey toward happiness, but rather a series of attempts to avoid suffering. Yet for highly intelligent people, avoiding suffering is impossible. They are too aware of reality to be swept away by illusions. They cannot pretend that life always has meaning. They cannot believe in the comforting ideas that most people rely on to keep going. And so, they find themselves trapped between two choices: accept the meaninglessness of life, or fight against it, knowing it's a battle they can never win. Studies have shown that people with high IQs are more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression than the average person. The reason is simple: an intelligent mind never stops searching. And when it doesn't find what it's looking for, it turns inward, against itself. This is why highly intelligent people constantly question themselves and doubt everything. They feel lost, even when they have everything an average person could ever wish for. They may be successful in their careers, they may be admired by others, but deep inside, they still feel an emptiness that nothing can fill. So how do they accept that? How does an intelligent person stop overthinking? Stop tormenting themselves? Stop falling into the spiral of anxiety and depression? The way to break free from that cycle is to quiet the mind. This doesn't mean abandoning all desires, but rather learning to control them, not letting them control your mind, not chasing external things, not getting caught up in meaningless pursuits, not allowing your life to be dictated by what others consider important. One of the most effective ways to escape the torment of intelligence is through art. Art, especially music, is one of the most powerful ways to temporarily transcend the will to survive. When people immerse themselves in a piece of music, a painting, or a poem, they are no longer dominated by desire, no longer trapped in endless loops of thought. They simply feel. In that moment, they are no longer controlled by the will, no longer bound by the worries of life. But that is only part of the solution. To truly achieve peace of mind, you must learn to accept the true nature of life instead of searching for an absolute meaning. Instead of trying to escape the meaninglessness of the world, we must learn to face it without fear. Because suffering doesn't come from reality itself, it comes from our resistance to reality. When you stop worrying about the future, when you no longer obsess over things beyond your control, when you simply live in this very moment, that is when your mind is truly free. Peace is not something you can chase. It is something you attain when you stop chasing. But how do you practice this in daily life? How does someone with a restless mind learn to let go? There are 3 key steps. First, learn to observe your thoughts without getting caught up in them. When your mind begins to spiral into overthinking and anxiety, don't fight it, but don't let it consume you either. Simply observe it, acknowledge it, and let it pass, like waves crashing onto the shore and then retreating. Thoughts will come and go, but you don't have to dive into the ocean to hold on to them. Second, seek moments of true connection with the world around you. This could come from music, from art, from nature, or simply from stillness in everyday life. When you watch a sunset without analyzing it, when you listen to a song without trying to interpret it, when you are simply present, that is when your mind is truly free. Third, accept that there is no ultimate answer to everything. One of the biggest reasons intelligent people suffer is because they are always searching for an absolute truth, a higher meaning, a final answer to it all. But the human mind is not designed to have all the answers. There are things we will never understand, mysteries that will never be solved, and accepting this is a crucial step toward inner peace. But even after understanding all of this, one crucial question remains. If intelligence cannot bring happiness, then what can it bring? Is there another meaning that intelligent people can find? That is exactly what I want to explore next: intelligence and the search for the true meaning of life. I believe that the true meaning of life does not come from the things humans instinctively pursue, but from transcendence, a state in which one can see the world from a completely different perspective, beyond the limits of ordinary thinking. There are 3 paths that can lead to this state: philosophy, empiricism, and spirituality. Philosophy is the path where reason is used to understand the nature of the world, to uncover the invisible laws that govern existence, and to question one's own being. But philosophy does not provide a final answer. It only teaches that asking the questions is more important than finding the answers. An intelligent person cannot stop doubting, but instead of being consumed by the need for absolute truth, they can learn to appreciate the journey of thought itself. Because meaning is not a destination, it is a process that never truly ends. Intelligence in itself is neither good nor bad, it is merely a tool. The problem is not intelligence itself, but how it is used. A sharp knife can be used to craft with precision, but it can also harm the one who holds it. A sharp mind can illuminate the truth, but if not properly directed, it can become a burden, trapping a person in endless skepticism, analysis, and dissatisfaction. You can either live with intelligence or be controlled by it. To live with intelligence means knowing when to think and when to stop. It means using intelligence to understand, but not allowing it to dominate every moment of life. You see intelligence as a guiding light, but you do not mistake that light for the path itself. To be controlled by intelligence is to analyze to the point of paralysis, to think so much that you lose touch with reality. You cannot enjoy a beautiful moment without trying to explain it. You cannot simply feel, because your mind is always searching for a deeper meaning, even when there is none to be found. Intelligence is not a door to peace, it is a key. If you know how to use it, it unlocks doors to deeper understanding. But if you spend your life holding the key without opening any doors, you become trapped in your own labyrinth. Let intelligence serve you, rather than becoming a slave to it. Empiricism is the path that allows one to break free from the loop of overthinking and connect with reality in its purest form. If philosophy helps people analyze the world through reason, empiricism helps them step beyond the limits of thought and experience the world as it is, without being hindered by concepts or definitions created by the intellect. Intelligence can help one understand empiricism, but empiricism can only be achieved through experience, not through thinking. Imagine reading a book that describes a sunset. You can analyze the light, the colors, the angles, the physics behind it, but no amount of information can replace the experience of standing beneath the sky and witnessing that sunset with your own eyes. Intelligence is like a map, but a map is not the actual land. You can understand empiricism through intellect, but if you stop at understanding, you will forever remain an outsider. A mind trapped in intellect will always ask, what is empiricism? How can I explain it? How can I be certain it exists? The one who steps into empiricism will simply live fully in the moment, without the need to ask questions. You cannot think your way to peace, you can only feel it. You cannot analyze an experience, you can only live it. And the deepest path of all is spirituality, not in the conventional religious sense, but as a profound awareness of the connection between human beings and the universe. This idea is strongly reflected in Buddhist philosophy, particularly in the concept of letting go of the ego. Human suffering arises from the self, from attachment to identity, from the desire for control, from the fear of loss. But if one can transcend the ego, if they can see the world without placing themselves at its center, then they will reach a state where intelligence is no longer a burden, but a guiding light, a tool that helps them flow with the universe, rather than resist it. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to learn to embrace the journey itself, rather than constantly searching for a destination. You don't need to seek meaning, because you are the meaning. The problem is not intelligence, it's how we use it. Intelligence is like fire. If controlled, it warms us and lights our path. But if left unchecked, it can consume us entirely. The greatest mistake of intelligent people is believing that thinking can solve everything, that deep enough analysis will lead to absolute truth. But some questions don't need answers. Some moments aren't meant to be explained. They are meant to be lived. A strong mind is not one that is always in motion, but one that knows when to be still. Those who are truly happy are not happy because they are less intelligent, but because they do not let intelligence rule them. They understand the impermanence of life, yet it does not lessen the value of each moment. They accept that there is no ultimate meaning, yet they create meaning for themselves. They do not chase happiness as a destination. Instead, they turn their very existence into a meaningful journey. So if you have ever felt trapped in your own intellect, remember, the problem is not that you are too intelligent, but how you choose to use that intelligence. You can let it drown you in doubt, or you can turn it into a tool that allows you to see the world in a way few others ever will. Intelligence is neither a curse nor a guarantee of happiness. It is simply a part of you. I hope you found this video helpful. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you think my content is valuable, consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps more people discover it. Thanks for watching, and I wish you and your family good health and peace.